10th play of this outstanding opening drive for Penn State. It's Lee again into the end zone for the touchdown. Penn State, they've got almost 200 yards of total offense here in the first half. And the keeper by Clifford. Clifford heading through from 40 yards out.
This is a well-rested Spartans team. They didn't play last week because of COVID. This is a deep shot for Lombardi. He hits his receiver in stride. It is Jalen Naylor. Takes lead at 10-0 as we start the second quarter. They got it third down at 5 from the 15 of Northwestern to the end zone. Caught. Touchdown for the Spartans.
What a wild weekend in Detroit sports, or the state of Michigan sports. And as I welcome in the maestro, Lawton Luntz. All right, and you saw it was very ironic. Great editing by you, the fine producer of the show. You saw as they were showing Michigan the breaking news of Patricia being fired as Michigan was losing to an 0-5 Penn State team. Then you saw your Michigan State Spartans getting 14 at home, not just covering the spread, but winning outright and beating number 8 in Northwestern. It has just been one of the craziest years. That was a crazy weekend. But before we do anything, welcome into you. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Now, obviously, moving towards Christmas and Hanukkah. You look great. I like the lighting scenario behind you. It's very emotional. Got to see you on Thanksgiving, and it's great to be with you tonight.
Hey, likewise. This is, like you said, it's just a weird weekend. Lots of activity, especially in the sports world. So tons to talk about tonight.
All I got to tell you is, oh, Sheila. So I tried to get this started as a trending viral, hashtag on my show yesterday at 97 with a Ticket. SFH. You see it on the left side of your screen there. It obviously stands for Sheila Fordham, but I want it to stand for Savior Fordham. Savior Fordham. Now, obviously, she hasn't done anything yet, but getting rid of Quinn and Patricia needed to happen. She said it was playoff contender or else. The or else happened. They're both gone. It was a total train wreck of a 5+ year for Bob Quinn and a almost 3-year run for Matt Patricia. As the great Dolphins fan that you are, super objective, from looking at that drone 10,000 feet above, what do you think about what happened over the weekend with the Lions firing Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn?
Well, first, let's address the photograph. I mean, is that not every Lions fan? If you add in a jersey, add in a jersey of a past player, give her a Mike McMahon jersey, and have those hands over the face. That is a defeated Lions fan. But the thing that Sheila did that impressed me and all of Lions Nation is that she did something responsible. She saw something that wasn't working, and like the boss that she is, she said, look, you've been relieved of your duties. This is not going to work. And that's different from the past. If you could go back to Wayne Fonts, what did they used to do? They used to get him ramped up every year before the playoffs to say he was going to get fired if they didn't make the playoffs. You gave a lot of these other coaches way too long of a tenure. Matt Millen, that era lasted way too long. She put the clamp down, and I was really, really proud of her to make that decision right after Thanksgiving. It's not tough. It's a tough business, and it's not for long, right? That's what the NFL stands for. And it's a results business, man. And you know what? This whole Patriots way, it works for one team, the Patriots. It hasn't worked anywhere else. And we gave it a shot. We tried to do something different here in Detroit, and it just didn't work out. And kudos to her for making the call.
All right, so a few things. First, I've been told the rumor was she actually wanted to wear a Joey Harrington jersey, but decided against it. Secondly, you mentioned doing the thing around Thanksgiving. I thought it would happen. I was shocked to talk to my good friend Dave Burkett, the Lions beat writer for The Freep, who came on my show on Friday night, and some other beat writers that obviously are covering this team every day. I mean, I cover the Lions, but it's not like these guys that are literally living and breathing every second with what the team is doing. And with Dave Burkett, and I didn't say this, until it happened because he told me kind of, off the air on, I want to say Tuesday, when I asked him if he could come on Thursday, that schedule me earlier if Patricia doesn't get fired. Please schedule me later if he does. And when he said that to me, I thought to myself, wow. First off, the Lions had only fired a coach in season going back to Steve Mariucci in 2004, the Monday after Thanksgiving. They rarely would do that kind of thing, or never had done it in the modern era, obviously, other than Mariucci. Secondly, the fact that it was out there for a guy like Burkett, that's the best of the business, meant to me there was a real chance it was going to happen if they lost. They obviously did. They got embarrassed, and Sheila Fordham did exactly what she said she would do, so that's good. But also, I have the Matt Patricia shirt on. Listen, I'll say this. You ever want anyone to lose their job? He was an awful coach here. But I covered the team throughout his tenure. He was always good to me. I don't wish him ill will. I hope he gets a coordinator job somewhere, an assistant coach job somewhere, because obviously the guy's been to 5 Super Bowls, has won 3. He obviously can coach, but it didn't work out here in Detroit. And in this long history, Lawton, of Lions coaches that were previous coordinators and did good jobs elsewhere, but couldn't coach as a head coach, Jim Schwartz, Marty Morningweg, Ron Marinelli, Matt Patricia, all excellent coordinators, but terrible head coaches, except Jim Schwartz did have a few good years. 0-16, the playoffs in 3 years was kind of impressive. Other than that, they've never gotten head coaching jobs again. No Lions head coach, going back to like 60 years ago, was the last time it happened, ever got a job again as a head coach after they were Lions head coach. So that's just, it's a graveyard. All right, listen, Lawton, it's great to have you. It's our special edition, our final one of the year for now, for what we know of this task force, brought to you by our great friends at Xfinity Communities. We've got a good special guest coming up later in the show. Want to let everyone know we are streaming to 4 sources tonight, multiple Facebooks, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. And we're even connected to Lawton's YouTube tonight. Very emotional stuff. So, Lawton, there's a lot to get into, including a Monday Night Football preview. Of course, we're going to talk a little about what happened with Michigan State and Michigan over the weekend, and a chance to win $5,000 from Xfinity Communities. There's still time left, Lawton, to win $5,000 from Xfinity Communities. We'll get into that soon. So before we get into what happened and caused the Patricia firing, I just want to throw this out there because we already got a question from a Facebook user about who would you bring in as coach and GM. And I spent my 4-hour show yesterday on 97 Won the Ticket about this. And I've got multiple names, but I kept it to one name for GM and one name for a coach for me, like my top selections. And for me, it's John Dorsey, who helped build the Chiefs to a Super Bowl contender. I know he left the year before Mahomes came there, but they were all scouting and all about Mahomes. And he obviously got so many other great draft picks, Tyreek Hill and others that have been around Kansas City for a while now. Then he obviously helped the Browns go from irrelevance to, they're an 8-3 team this year. Obviously, he was, swept out with the Hugh Jackson, cavalcade of non-whimsy, if you will. But I like John Dorsey, an established guy. I don't want the Lions to give another Bob Quinn guy who has never been a GM before a shot this time. For coach, I know some might disagree that you want to have a guy that's already coached before. Doesn't mean you can't have the next Sean McVay, the next Mike Vrabel. Obviously, what you're seeing what a lot of these guys are doing around the league. I want Eric Bieniemy, the OC in Kansas City, who, of course, won the Super Bowl last year, works hand in hand with Andy Reid. I know Andy Reid has final authority on play calls, but I think Eric Bieniemy, who's been interviewed before, is going to be a head coach, is creative. The players seem to love him. That kind of connection with a good GM is where I'm thinking right now. Who are the names that you're kind of percolating around? And as I said, you got a great perspective because you're a Dolphins fan that's lived in Michigan most of his life, and you are fair and balanced when it comes to the Lions. You don't get sucked in, like you mentioned, the typical Lions fan does, that over the last several years look like this. Yeah. Right. So what about you?
So I'm going to throw out some names that you probably haven't even thought of or haven't heard of. I don't disagree. I know Eric Bieniemy is kind of like the number one pick right now. I just would caution the Lions on looking at it. He would have to have a really strong presentation in that interview for me to make the absolute hire. And the reason why is that he looks really good as offensive coordinator because he has Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. You have a great offensive line. You got Tyreek Hill as one of your wide receivers, Sammy Watkins. The list goes on and on. You're coming to a completely different situation here in Detroit. So I think I have a list of a top 3 for coaches, and I just have one GM that I really want, and I'll leave that for last. So top 3 coaches. The only coach in the top 5 offenses right now in the NFL that has a situation similar to a Matt Stafford, a pocket passer, that's at least what I don't consider him a mobile quarterback at all, is Kevin O'Connell, the Rams OC. He's been working under Sean McVay. I feel like that's, the organization they've made it to a Super Bowl, okay? So they've had some success. And then my number 2 and 1 are both Steeler pickups. And you have Randy Fichtner, who's the offensive coordinator there currently. He was the quarterback's coach. He's been a wide receivers coach there. He's been on the staff 13 years. He has a good pedigree. You also got a guy like John Mitchell, who's been the Steelers' assistant head coach for 27 years, or at least he's the assistant head coach now, but he's been on that staff for 27 years. These are at least individuals, if I were the Lions, that I would reach out to gauge interest because there's a lot of other guys on that list. Yeah, they're great. We had Joe Brady from the Panthers, who was LSU's head offensive coordinator a year ago. You got a lot of guys that haven't had a lot of time in the game. And I just feel more comfortable getting someone from an organization that has been successful and not a Patriot way sort of thing. As far as the general manager situation, I feel like there is one pick that I think no one will be mad about, and that's Tony Dungy. He's originally from Jackson, Michigan. He's been there, done that. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's done it all. And I feel like if you're able to get also a former Steeler, when he was a player, he was backed up Terry Bradshaw. But if you take a guy like Tony Dungy, you can trust that he'll make the right pick. And I feel like
let me back you up really quick on that. I think I totally get where you're coming from, but I think this name was brought up on my show yesterday too. Dungy's great, but I don't think Dungy needs to be the GM. You want to bring Ron Wood is probably not getting fired, but you got to bring in a president or a director of football ops like a Tony Dungy that's in charge of overseeing everything, and then bring in a GM that has worked recently in the NFL. The problem with me, Lawton, when you mentioned Tony Dungy, obviously checks off all the boxes from Jackson, Michigan, set SOL on NBC Sunday Night Football, got the whole nation involved with the SOL thing. I don't think he needs to be the general manager. You want him as kind of like the GM emeritus, if you will, bring in a guy like a John Dorsey or whomever it is that you want to have run the day-to-day and have Dungy have final authority on things if you want it that way. Because I don't think that Dungy is connected to the game as far as every day in and out being a GM like these guys are that you mentioned some of the names you threw out there. That's the thing I feel about Dungy.
One thing we can't agree on, I'm sure, though, I think you go offensive coordinator this time, an offensive presence. You got to get Matt Stafford into the playoffs and get him a playoff win at the very bare minimum. It's really your only objective at this point. If you're the Lions, just that's where you're going to get the fans to buy in. Not this almost stuff anymore. It's like, listen, we've got to change the trajectory of what's happening here. And the owners aren't going to sell, right? And that's been the only consistent thing going all the way back decades, right? And that's where you can kind of say, well, until ownership changes. I know there's that argument is thrown out all the time, but you know what? That's probably not going to happen because the Lions make money. People go to these games, good, bad, or awful, or winless. So they have a good business here. And you need now at this point, you need to give back to the fans. You need to spend some money, get some quality people in there to turn this thing around. And listen, your goal is just to get the playoffs and win one game. We're not saying you got to win the Super Bowl the first year.
Yep, you got to build this team. Got to build this team, to move forward, as opposed to Caldwell was one game away from 3 playoff years in 4, gets fired. Patricia 13-29-1, blows the team backwards. It wasn't even a step forward. It was like maybe some days they would be even, and then they take 7 steps backwards, then a couple forward, so they're still 4 behind the 8 ball. It was really, really bad. I'll just tell you one more thing. Oh, Sheila, she's the savior. Savior Fordham. All right, we got to get into this before we get into how people can win $5,000 from Xfinity. You know how I feel about it. I've been saying this for a couple years now. Jim Harbaugh has obviously got to go. They're not going to fire him. I've talked to a lot of the boosters. Some of them are still comfortable with him because of his graduation rates and things off the field that they really appreciate. And obviously still the big profile. But even some of the most ardent boosters that have tons of money, that have donated tons to the program, they're frustrated. And I actually sent a message out on my show yesterday, and I'm going to do it again here, to Ward Manuel, the AD, and say, listen, as the steward of the program, you've got to find a way for an exit strategy for Jim Harbaugh, because the longer he is there, the less credibility the program has, the worse and more apathy comes up with fans. I've got a good friend that's been a season ticket holder for like 46 years, went to Michigan, graduated early 70s, and guess what? He won't watch them again until Harbaugh is no longer the coach. Now, I don't buy all the Lions free since 2003, and I won't watch the Wolverines until Harbaugh's gone, people. But there are many out there that will just not watch these guys or not care anymore or not renew their season tickets or not donate to the school because they were big boosters for the football program. They've got to move on from Jim Harbaugh. And no, I don't want to see him go to the Lions like my man Rob Parker said on my show yesterday, but it's possible. I mean, it would be the worst thing in the world. That being said, as a Spartan fan, knowing how bad things are in Ann Arbor right now, maybe the worst year since 2007 with Rich Rod. What do you think about Jim Harbaugh?
Well, it took a turn for the worse today. I saw that report where Michigan is kind of taking a pause and shutting things down. And that kind of puts the game in jeopardy, right? It almost looks like I didn't hear a report where there were a ton of COVID cases out of U of M. I could have missed that. So it almost appears in some ways cowardly, not saying that it is, but you got 2 games left, and Ohio State gets kind of screwed in the whole mix because they need that game because they've already had a couple of off. So it's as bad as it can get for U of M. And whether or not they make the coaching change and give him one more last shot next year because of all the stuff that's transpired this year, if there's any one saving grace for Jim Harbaugh, it's that, hey, we've had this COVID, it's been a kind of an odd year, and we just haven't been. The thing is, though, with Michigan, I look at it like this. Every week that I watch them play, I don't see them getting better from week to week. And a lot of times the response to a loss will tell you a lot more than the actual loss, because anybody can have a bad day or a bad game. They just don't look prepared. And to have Penn State come in 0-5, almost hopeless, they looked in control of that game the entire game, Dan. And it just
all you got to do if you're 0-5 is just head to Ann Arbor and everything gets right. Penn State could not do anything right. They would make, momentum kind of late in time periods throughout a game, like Ohio State, whoever, for a quarter, and then go and you shoot themselves in the foot or throw a pick or turn the ball over. All the silly issues you kind of alluded to with Michigan, that they're not improving in the big moments. I've been harping on this for a couple of years now. 1-6-0 against Ohio State, Michigan State, 0-5 against the Buckeyes, losses in all the 10 biggest games in my opinion in the Harbaugh era. And Penn State could do anything right. They come to Ann Arbor, they win their first game. That is such an indictment on the top. The leadership is not there at the top. It does not trickle down, and that's the major issue right now. And for me, I look at it where, okay, if you keep Harbaugh one more year, I know it's been a crazy COVID year. He has 1 year left on his contract. I mean, it would be the end of the world, but why not just let him move now? Let him get an exit stretch. They're not going to fire him. I know Harbaugh's got an ego. He wants to save his face. Let him walk away, go back to the NFL, do whatever. Take a gap year. I don't care. But they've got to find the next, Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, whomever it is. To me, and I've been repping this guy for 2 years, and a lot of people agreed with me when I first said his name a couple of years ago, but then some people were laughing and mocking me, saying, what has he ever done? He's been in bad schools, back schools, Big 12. Matt Campbell is the number 1 coach head in the country right now. And you look at a guy like Brian Harsin at Boise State or Sonny Dykes at SMU, whomever it is, you've got so many options out there that would do, with the resources in Ann Arbor, double or triple what Matt Campbell has in Iowa State, they would be incredible. So all the Leach, who do you want instead of Harbaugh? You're not going to get anyone better. That's all BS, and that's over with.
Yeah. And Coach Venables over there at Clemson, the defensive coordinator, that's another name that kind of pops up for me too. Like, there's got to be a point if you're going to move to a program and become a head coach, and you can do it with the resources that Michigan has. That's been the biggest thing all year, is that, listen, Michigan gets 4- and 5-star recruits by the dozen every single year. Why isn't this talent being developed? I think bare minimum, they have to fire and take a different route with the defensive coordinator. I know Don Brown had 3 really good years when he started, but this year I think they're ranked 92nd going into that Penn State game, and that's not the Michigan way. So,
yeah. And by the way, you look at what's happened with recruiting. Recruiting is not the issue. And it wasn't the issue with Brady Hoke. I mean, Michigan's they have all these different metrics where they kind of judge recruiting classes because it's so subjective coming out of high school. But how players are developed and obviously blue chippers and everything comes together. Michigan's average under Harbaugh is right outside the top 5, and they've had some top 5 classes. And it's not recruiting; it's coaching. And the same thing with Brady Hoke. They got to get a guy that can coach these kids up. I love a guy like Matt Campbell, way less talent at Iowa State, and they've had some big wins, including over Texas over the weekend. And this leads right into my next question. I think your guy, PJ Mel Tucker, has had the 2 bigger wins in, 6 weeks than Harbaugh has in 6 years. And it started with Michigan. Your season was over then. I mean, not legitimately over, but you had already won the season by beating Michigan in this crazy COVID year with with Mel Tucker in his second game. Then you go and beat Northwestern, who might have been overrated, but who cares? They were undefeated. They were 8th in the CFP. They were 8th in the country, and you beat them as 14-point dogs. I think Mel Tucker has already shown, and who knows what happens going forward. But I hate to say this, it's just the truth though. I not that I would ever do this, but if I had my choice, and I wasn't a Michigan fan, but I could, as a 7-8-year-old kid right now, choose what program to be a fan of at this second, I would pick Michigan State. It seems to me there's a much bigger upswing, and Obviously, D'Antonio kind of almost ran the program into the ground, but the future looks so bright with Mel Tucker. I know it's just his first year, but that's the kind of guy you got to find. He was like your third, fourth choice, but sometimes you get lucky. It's better to be lucky than good. I've been very impressed with Mel Tucker. That was a huge win over the weekend.
With what he walked into, what he's been given, I can't say they're getting better from week to week because, they lose to Rutgers and beat Michigan. You're thinking they're going to get better, and then you move up and they continue to they just continue to lose. And then last week, it's like they're figuring it out as they go. This RPO setup with Rocky Lombardi looked really good. And, the game plan last week, it wasn't anything revolutionary. They ran the ball well. They controlled the tempo, and they played good defense. That was it. It was standard football. It wasn't anything crazy. And I don't think Northwestern actually looked less prepared. And, hey, take advantage when you can. Mel Tucker's got 2 top 15 wins already. Even though it's the only 2 games, it's kind of weird to juxtapose that with a Rutgers loss. But, hey, we'll take it. And, honestly, if he's able to manage 3 wins out of this season, I think that, at least he was able to find some wins out of what he was given.
Well said, my friend. As we move on here, let's just hope that for the Lions fans out there, they finally, like myself, can finally cheer for this team and feel good about it again in the next few years. I mean, it can't get any worse. So let's hope with that. And with Michigan obviously moving out from Harbaugh, if you're a State fan, you're feeling pretty good. Lawton, you want to give away or tell people how we can give away maybe $5,000 for Xfinity? How they can win that?
Well, it won't be coming from me, but Xfinity is doing the Xfinity Sports sweepstakes. It's XfinitySportsAreBack.com. All you got to do is log onto that site. You've got until Friday, December 4th. Once a day, you can log in. If you haven't done it yet, do it right now and do it every 24 hours until Friday. And the drawing will be sometime the week of the 7th, from what I understand. It's $5,000. I think the winner last year was close by, Westland Property, I believe. And I'd love personally for someone in my portfolio to win it. But at any rate, anybody in this area wins it, it would be awesome. It's the entire Heartland region. And you can't, if you don't play, you can't win. So XfinitySportsAreBack.com, get on right away and make sure you get an entry in. And feel free to put in your community if it's listed.
You better do it. And I think we're going to have a local winner. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come right back with a very special guest. It should be very, I would say, emotional, if you will. Maybe something, possibly.
Entertaining.
Yes, very entertaining. And don't forget, go to XfinitySportsIsBack.com. Get that chance to win $5,000.
Gordon Hayward shows his opponents no mercy. No, seriously, he's like ridiculously competitive. Which is why he refuses to play on anything but gamer-grade internet from Xfinity.
If I could, maybe I'd give you my world. How can I, when you won't take it from me? You can go your own way, go your own way.
With Xfinity Mobile, it's your wireless, your rules. So go your own way and save. Only with Xfinity Mobile.
Total sweet sauce. How about Gordon Hayward getting in the mix? That's your guy, Lawton. All right.
I like Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward. He was literally, what was it, like maybe half a foot away from having the greatest winning shot in the history of basketball when his Butler team almost beat Duke. I mean, literally, like, we're saying it was like a few inches. That would have been to me. I mean, you've obviously had some huge shots, Michael Jordan over Byron Russell, and I mean, you've had some big shots in the history of basketball. There have been no bigger shot than to win a national title from half court than that Gordon Hayward shot.
Yeah, and Gordon Hayward he reminds me of I liken him to a Derrick Rose in this sense that he was a great player. He got injured really bad, and now he's coming back. And there's still belief that he can be that guy, especially now that he's in Charlotte. He's getting paid a lot of money, and sometimes they say the comeback's better than the come up. So we hope that something works out for him.
All right, we got people getting in that Xfinity Sports is back drawing right now. Also, someone wants to say Lawton always sounds like he knows what he's talking about. That must be your wife. And also, people want to know, can employees win? That's a good question, Lawton. Obviously, I've been told I can't win. That's why I always say, all right, if you got $2,000 of that $5,000, what would your ultimate sports trip be or your vacation destination? So can employees win, Lawton?
I don't believe so. No, we can't win. Otherwise, all of us would be logging on once a day for sure. So it's
all right. Well, guess what? Speaking of employees, how about Tima Jones? She joins the show for the first time. Very excited to have her. Tima, welcome in.
Thank you so much. So glad to be with you guys tonight and hang out and see what's kind of going on and recap from the weekend. So thanks for having me.
You got it, Lawton. Take it away. Let everyone know how great, I already know how great Tima is, but let everyone know that has not met her before how great she is.
Oh, well, Tima used to be my teammate at Xfinity Communities. She had a portfolio like mine where we managed a bunch of different multi-dwelling communities, apartments, condos, mobile home communities, senior living spaces, and she was promoted earlier this year. It's been a wild year, but she is now an indirect retail supervisor. And I thought it was important to have Tima on the show, not only for her sports perspective, but also because her can also our viewers / customers out.
Yeah, well, Tima, let me just say before we get into a couple. I think Lawton.
I was just going to say, Tima. Okay. I was just going to say, Tima, tell us a little bit about your position.
So I'm the indirect retail supervisor for the East Side. So my team actually supports Best Buy. So they actually work inside of Best Buy stores. We have a partnership with Best Buy where we are able to assist customers that are looking to enhance their in-home entertainment. They're thinking about going to the store and they wanted to get services, and they're able to connect with one of my employees to be able to sign them up. If you think about Best Buy and your in-home entertainment, especially for sports, you want that great TV, you want the surround sound system, that good sound bar. So a lot of the products that Best Buy sell in their stores are a great partner and marriage with Xfinity products. So they have the opportunity to engage the Best Buy customers and be able to sign them up with services as they're shopping for a new TV, their speakers, if it's a kitchen appliance, whatever it is, we're able to assist that customer at that time.
And guess what else you can do? Have your husband watching the show. That's my wife, they say. Have him add his name see who he is. And I do want to throw this up there, as we always do. And Lawton, it's been such a great partnership throughout these several shows that we've done, and we're looking forward to hopefully doing some more going forward. But it really is something that I care about, because we obviously have fun on these shows and talk about sports and fun things that are going on. But also there are people out there. It's been a tough year. People need to have their internet and cable services. And you guys in these Xfinity communities that you just do this top level stuff where it really is a direct connection to the customer. And it's not like they're just another number. And if people ever need support or services, you see the number right there. You text XC Task Force to 734-887-6008. A rep like Lawton, a rep like Tima, and she just explained how you can help with the Best Buy type stuff too. And Tima, I wanted to give you a chance, because Lawton has said this many times on the show, why it's such an important thing and it's such a special thing, because a lot of companies don't look at it. And I'm not trying to, bring anybody out to dry that isn't involved with this show, but not a lot of companies are as proactive and as connective as Xfinity is. And I've been very impressed with that. That's why we ended up doing this partnership in the first place. And I think that really says a lot about what you guys try to do, whether it's you or Lawton or Hugo or whoever we've had on this show before, Hugh Johnson. I think that it's one of those things where that makes a difference for people out there that need help.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the company recognizes that we are more than a 1-800 number, and a lot of people don't know that. I mean, we are really, as a company, very present in the community, and we can be found in so many different avenues right now. So I'm excited about, what's to come and the other great things that we have ahead of us, because the company, as you said, is very, very proactive in making sure that we're meeting the needs of our community, the people that's in our own backyard, and how do we provide the services that they need the most.
And they also have incredible backgrounds when they're on the show, like you do right there with that amazing cabinetry work. I think I'm going to have to hire you or whoever did that stuff. But no, it really is something special. And that's why it's been great to be involved with people like you and Lawton and Doug Rose and the many others we've had on the show. All right, listen, you grew up, born in Detroit, lived in Houston. Yes. What are your feelings on the Thanksgiving Day massacre? What are your feelings on Patricia Quinn getting fired? Who do you maybe want next?
Well, so I am Detroit to my heart, but Houston is my second home. If I told my husband right now we were moving, sorry, I know that's not what you want to hear. With my previous employer, I worked for Coca-Cola, and so Houston Texans had a huge partnership with Coca-Cola, so we lived at those games. So I do have some Texan in me. But I want Detroit to get a good coach. I want them to make a comeback. I mean, Detroit Lions fans, like my brother, are diehard, ride or die for Detroit. So I really want them to get an experienced coach. I don't know any of them, but I hope that, they find a good coach so that they can keep the fans behind them and build that team morale. Because the fact that the team themselves, they were celebrating the fact that there were some changes in leadership, that definitely means they need to bring some good people on board.
Yeah, the irony, though, and Lawton knows this too, the irony is whether you're rooting for the Texans or the Lions, we both need a coach and GM because you fired yours back earlier this season.
Yes.
When Bill O'Brien got axed. So you're in the same spot as whether you're a Lions fan or a Texans fan. There's a lot of intersyncing, if you will, intersecting intricacies. Lawton, when you look at what Tima had mentioned about making sure the right person is put in there. It is interesting that both the Texans and Lions need that, and they're going to be competing for similar people, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And who that person will be, I mean, I'll definitely get that news alert, but I'm interested to see how this all pans out, and I hope that the Lions can rebound from this and, really kind of turn this thing around with a new coach.
Explain what your husband needs by we won't be behind them, laughing out loud, Bulls on parade. Is he a big Rage Against the Machine fan?
I have no idea what that means at all.
Bulls on parade. Maybe it was in his posture. Lawton, anything to add, my friend? Lawton?
Well, your pick, Eric Bieniemy, I think he'd be a great fit there in Houston. You got a mobile quarterback situation, great receiving core, and might be a plug and play guy for a team like Houston. For Detroit, like I said, you got to find someone that has that offensive coordinator experience with a pocket passer and needs to work on that offensive line and that running game a little bit. And if you find that guy, that's going to be your guy. No Patriots, we can rule that out now, right?
Yes. By the way, the husband is way back in. I guess that's what Texans fans say. Bulls on parade, Texans, bull, whatever. By the way, before we get into a little Monday Night Football preview here, we'll let Tima pick the game as we always do, even though it just kind of started. I got to tell you this. This is how crazy this year is. We have got Wednesday afternoon football. I didn't know if you two were aware of this. The Ravens and Steelers are now playing on Wednesday afternoon. And then the Ravens got to play Dallas on Tuesday night. It's just insane. But we do have football tonight. Let's talk about it. Got a little Seahawks and Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's funny. And Lawton, I'll start with you. The winner of the NFC East could be 5-11. I'm not saying it's going to be, but it legitimately there's a 50-50 chance. I think at best sticks in 10, but you also have the Eagles. There's a tie situation out there with a couple of the teams. So it's so weird. And you look at the game tonight, the Eagles are catching anywhere between 6 to 6.5 points. Seahawks are a much better team, but it's in Philly. I wonder how you see this game tonight.
I like the Seahawks tonight, 27-10. Their Jalen Hurts was supposed to start. There was a possibility he was coming in. The Seahawks have been pretty bad against the pass defensively. I don't see Jalen Hurts coming in and lighting up the scoreboard with down the field balls. I feel like there's more of an RPO option there. I like the Seahawks tonight, 27-10, and it's going to make that NFC East a little more interesting.
Well, up to the second, 4th and goal at the Philly 2 for the Seahawks. And I mentioned that just absurd situation with their division. You've got, 1-2 with a tie. The Eagles tonight, 3-6-1. You got the Giants and Washington football team tied at the top at 4-7 going into week 13. And you have the Cowboys at 3-8. It's just incredible how awful it's. Tima, these are not two teams you're cheering for, so you don't have to worry about that. What do you think about tonight? Seahawks, of course, the Seahawks, one of the better teams in the NFL. They're 7-3. The Eagles, if they want to have any chance of staying in this wacky NFC least race, they can't drop to 3-7-1. What do you think about tonight?
Hey, I'm rooting for the winning team. So Seahawks have been in the lead. I'm going to say that they're already off to a great start. So I think they're going to win this one tonight.
All right, and we're going to add you to the picks here, Lawton. Just if people didn't know, I finally lost last week, my first Monday night loss of the season on these shows, so I'm 8-1. You are 7-2. Our man Chucky Rose 2-7. That is terrible. And then Hugh is 2-0. Tima, we're going to make you 1-0 with your pick tonight with the Seahawks. All right, I'm going to go with the Seahawks win, but an Eagles cover. So I have it Seahawks 24-20. It will be kind of some late Wentz magic, even though he's been absolutely terrible and inconsistent for much of this year. That's why they're 3-6-1. But I think the Eagles cover the game, hang in there, but the Seahawks win it and move to 8-3 and keep pace in the NFC West. A big loss yesterday, by the way, to the Rams losing at San Francisco in a game. Looked like they had come back. They were down big, 14-3, 17-3, fought their way all the way back, had that game tied, lost right at the end to Robbie Gould in a 50-plus yard field goal. So this could be a huge kind of two-game swing for the Seahawks tonight. All right, before we get going here, don't forget, Xfinity Sports are back. Please get to that website. Get a chance to win $5,000 from our good friends at Xfinity. All you got to do is go there, enter once a day. As we mentioned, you can go to or text XC Task Force to 734-887-6008. Lawton, as we always do, shout-outs. Great job, by the way. Lawton is the fine producer of this show, and without him, I am nothing.
Oh, stop. Yeah, listen.
By the way, really quick, Lawton, Tima's husband needs to relax because he sent about 15 messages. He's got Bill Bryan. He's saying Bo Schembechler sucks. Enough of that. All right. Go ahead, Lawton. Sorry.
So I have two shout-outs today. We'll do the least important one first. Shout out to Sheila, Sheila, for making that decision over the weekend. That was a boss move. Really liked it. And the most important, huge happy birthday. Shout out to my daughter, Lyric. She turns 12 today. She's growing up real fast. And we're about to eat some really fine cuisine as soon as this show is done. So happy birthday, young lady.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Lawton, it's one of these things where you and I have known each other for a very long time. And I met you when I believe she was in a stroller at 1.5 years old. And yes. I love her. I'm trying. What I'm doing right now is I want to get her a picture. I want to get a picture of her up. So, team, if you don't mind, do a little extra extended shout out, please.
You said my shout out?
Yes. Who are your shout outs? But just kind of, if you wouldn't mind, kind of stretch for me because I'm trying to get a picture of Larry.
Gotcha. Right, so I am going to shout out Lawton for this wonderful production and for allowing me the time to just be with you tonight. Also, my husband for his support in the chat, for coming on to support. And then for all of you who are watching, definitely make sure you enter in the drawing. Go to your nearest Best Buy. Look for your Xfinity. Make sure if you don't have Xfinity at home, you change it today. It's a much better in-home experience. So go Xfinity.
All right. Great stuff by you. By the way, Mitt and Novi's weighing in. Love that. And your husband, I'm hyped. My baby's on a sports show. There you go. And this is why I'm as good as I am. There's the young lyricist. Happy birthday to Lyric. She's famous now. She can show this to all of her friends on TikTok. She got into someone's Zoom the other day at Thanksgiving, some famous TikTok star, and she is an incredible kid. Lawton, you and Ashley, your fine and amazing wife, have done a hell of a job. Happy birthday to Lyric.
Yeah,
all right, I want to thank both of you. She's the best. I want to thank both of you and Sheila. Long Luntz, Tima Jones. It's been a crazy, blanked up year, but these shows have meant a lot to me. And I know, Lawton, you and I have really had an incredible friendship over the years to be able to do these shows with you and great people like Tima that you brought in and Chucky Rose and Hugh, etc. has really meant a lot to me. Just listen, people have just traveled. Some of you have. Please be safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Wear a mask. Spread love, not hate. And until next time, for the great Lawton Luntz and Team Tima Jones, and guess what? Her husband as well, because he's still going. He's still going. TJ, we love you.
They grew up together, Dan.
So we got lots of connection.
Yes.
All right. Well, I can't wait.
I didn't know that until I worked at Airpack, but yes, that is true.
Can't wait to meet all of you soon. But thanks again for watching. This has been a special edition of the Task Force brought to you by Xfinity Communities. Once again, for Lawton Luntz, for Tima Jones, I'm Dan Leach. Until next time, believe in the dream.